Hello, Heights Church. It's Becky, Sweeney, and we're here with our wonderful, fabulous panel of teachers and our children's pastor, Jennifer Alessio. And we're coming alongside of our parents who are pivoting to homeschool or virtual education. And we're putting together some videos to help equip you in that and give you support. So we're going to have an informal discussion with these wonderful professionals. This is Jennifer, our children's pastor.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us today. I know that this is going to be an awesome time, and I'm sure that you're going to be blessed.
And then Stacy, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you teach? And we're looking at the camera with the white paper.
There's a white paper. Okay, well, my name is Stacy Kopshy, and I teach English at Cordova High School. This is the first day of my 30th year of teaching, and the good news is I still love my teenagers, and I still love being a teacher. I totally enjoy learning, which is a good thing because this year is all about learning new things.
Wonderful. Charles?
Yeah, I'm Charles Thomas. I teach at Will Rogers Middle School, just down the street on Dewey Drive. I teach math intervention and general math to kids with IEPs. I also teach science this year, and I also run individual education programs for students.
Wonderful. And so Stacy and Charles, microphones closer. And because we want to hear what you have to say, expert teachers in the field. And so our first question here is, when you think of parents pivoting to homeschool virtual education, they're doing it this week, what comes to your mind that they need to know? Jennifer?
Well, what comes to mind for me is just from what I learned, because my kids were home from March all the way through June. And what I really learned from that season is that attitude is everything. And really, my kids take the lead from my attitude. So if I'm positive, if I'm excited about it, then they're going to be excited about it. And I had to learn I needed to be prepared for questions. Right? And
nice.
So they're going to have questions with their homework. They're going to have questions on how to submit it. That was another thing. You know, how do we submit things to Google Classroom? And just being prepared and available for that. And then just having patience. Patience with myself, patience with my kids. And then the other thing my husband and I learned is we need to check their work. So, yes. So they can say that they've done it and they really have done it, but they might not have submitted it correctly. And so that was something that we learned. And so every day for us, we learned that we really needed to stay in close contact with their teachers and know these are the assignments that should be submitted. They're due today. And let's check and make sure that they are. And so that's just something that helped them and helped us have peace of mind.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so that's a parent's perspective from a high school teacher. When you think of parents, families pivoting in this time, what would you say? Come on, Stacy.
Well, my first answer is also patience. Be patient with your student because this is a whole new world for your student also. Your students are pretty nervous. Today was my first day of school, and I had a lot of kids that were asking me when I sent out just a questionnaire. They're saying, please be patient with me. There's so much I don't know. I don't know how to work this platform. Mm-hmm. But with that said, my answers are going to be a little bit different than Jennifer's because I do teach high school, and you need to let your students struggle a little bit. You do need to help them learn to self-advocate. When there is that first problem, it's okay to let your student contact the teacher. Yes, make sure that your student's doing their work, but understand that these struggles that your student that your students have, they're not new to your students. They do tend to struggle at school a little bit. It's new because you're seeing it. So even though you want to be there for your student, you don't have to fix everything.
Well said. I have two high schoolers, so I'm like, oh man, I need to write that down. Very good. Thank you, Stacy. Charles.
For me, just echoing the patience. Patience is going to be key during this whole situation. Patience with our kids, but also please, parents, be patient with us teachers because this is new to us too. I've been teaching for 17 years now. And obviously this is the first time we've ever gone through this, but I was talking to a colleague of mine and we both kind of said, I'd be surprised if we don't have to do this again before we retire. And the other thing I'd say is kind of, and this is kind of a negative thing, but kind of be prepared for the long haul. Like this is probably going to last at least until December. So be prepared to Jennifer's point is attitude.
Yes.
It starts with the top. So
Yes.
as a teacher, we're told you better come in with a positive attitude, try to be positive with the kids. Well, in a way, parents are now default teachers.
They are.
And so it's going to be really important that we have that positive attitude, and it's okay to even struggle with your kids. It's okay to say, I don't understand it either. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But going through that struggle to my you guys didn't hear that. That struggle is that part of that learning piece that actually helps us grow.
Yes.
Other thing is set a routine. Because, a lot of kids are waking up. They're used to waking up from summer, especially. We used to waking up at summer whenever they want. So my kids are going to bed tonight at 9 o'clock. Phones are getting turned in. Everybody's going down.
That's a good dad.
Yeah. Everybody's going down. My kids don't have TVs in their room, so that's not even an option. And especially this is going to be a difficult time for parents that are still working. So my advice to you parents that are still working, make sure you set that routine and set your expectations early, and then make sure you follow through with whatever it is. And I would suggest, this is what I would do in my house. If I had to leave, I would take like the Xbox power cords, all that's going with me, and it comes back with me when I come home from work.
Okay, not only is this is a unique, wonderful dad perspective as well, and you're right on target. I'm really happy you're saying those things. These are just realistic, practical tips from teachers and parents. So beautiful. Love it.
And I have 3 kids at home. So while I'm teaching my kids, I'm like, hey, this is how you do it. Sign on to this class. You know what I mean? So we have to have workstations kind of around our house. My wife is home right now too. So it's like hard, especially if we all have Zoom meetings at the exact same time.
Right. It gets a little
very
chaotic.
hard.
Yes.
I'd just like to add to what Charles said about routines. Have that discussion about routines before the first day of school. Don't have that discussion 5 minutes before you're going on to the video. Make sure everybody knows where they're sitting. Make sure you have your space. Make sure you know that you really do need to be dressed appropriately if you're going to be on camera. Make sure that you have your spot set up so that the background behind the camera is something that you want to be seen and something that your student is okay with having seen on the camera too. But have those discussions long before the actual class begins.
But if you didn't have that routine discussion, have it as soon as possible and get that underway. And you can sit down with your student and get that worked out together and show them how to put that together. Nice. Thank you. Did you have anything to add, Jennifer? You looked like you wanted to say something.
No, I mean, I would definitely agree on a routine and setting clear expectations. So knowing, hey, we're going to get up this time, we're going to log in at school at this time, and your work needs to be completed before we have free time,
Yes.
And we're going to be going to bed at this time, just so that your kids are totally aware and there aren't any surprises. And then let them know, hey, if this doesn't happen, there's going to be a consequence, not just academically, but with mom and dad. I
do need to add a little bit, again, different perspective for the high school level. Our students, our teenagers are used to having a lot of time to socialize, visit with their friends during the school day. And they're going to need that. They're going to balk if they don't have that time built into the day. So if you have your teenager who has that 15, 20 minutes between class periods built in, it's okay if they're not working on an assignment. Make sure that they do have that time to stay social with their friends. Because you think about it, they've lost their passing periods. They've lost their lunchtime. They've lost their before school and their after school. They've lost their classroom collaboration unless we are able to get that figured out in Zoom or Teams. So those are times that they're used to talking with their friends. And if they don't have that time, it's going to be kind of depressing for them. So it does need to be built in or allowed in their schedule.
Nice, thank you.
I'm just going to add
Charles,
one more
please.
thing because I know we need to move on. Schedule some fun time as a family. Like schedule it though, so it happens. Don't just like say, oh, we're going to do something like actually put it down, put it on a calendar or whatever, however you guys do it. Schedule some fun time as a family. Because this, especially these first couple of weeks, are going to be very stressful. And we're going to need to decompress as a family.
I agree. And that's one of the questions actually is, so we'll kind of jump to covering that actually right now. So home education, virtual education, having a schedule, we've covered that. But we want to make it also an enjoyable experience because this can be a wonderful time with families. This can be a good thing. What is difficult and what's been thrust upon us can come from it, and it can become a memory for your family, you and your child. I mean, I homeschooled my kids for 10 years. I encountered a lot of dads who homeschooled their kids, and that was just, it was precious. And so we have this pause button where we're in our house with our kids and we can make it enjoyable and not something to just endure. And so what are some of your tips for doing that? Charles, you want to help us out? What do you do with your family?
I know when the weather's nice, we go to the lake. We have a park pass. So you pay like $120 and you can go as much as you want for the year.
Folsom Lake?
Well, it works in all the state parks.
Oh, nice.
It works for all the state parks. So it's a great buy. If your kids like outdoors, it's a great buy because if you go to Folsom Lake, every time you go, it's $12. So if you go 10 times, it's paid for. So scheduling time like that, and then also make time throughout the day. Make time throughout the day to just tickle your kid. You know what I mean? Tell them you love them. Pick them up. Do something silly. And my son and I, we play fight sometimes. You know what I mean? Just do something silly and just something to break the monotony of what this day can be like. Because they're really missing this social time that they're having. And I do think that that's going to be important. That's why I wouldn't necessarily take my kids' phones during the day. You know what I mean? Because that's where they're going to get some of that social time. Because that's what our kids are really, especially junior high and high school, they're really missing that social time. And I know the younger kids are too. That's just the age group that I have right now.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, even though we're, a lot of things are closed that we might normally tend to do with kids for fun, like go to the movies or things that cost money, there are fun outdoor activities that we can incorporate, like hiking and going to the lake, playing in water, just even going for walks, going for walking field trips, walking to a grocery store, just something very simple to break that monotony up. We want our kids to enjoy education, not dread it, right? So Jennifer, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I agree with all of that. And I think for me, my husband and I really try to set a fun atmosphere at home.
Yes.
So we always incorporate that in our day.
Nice.
And, we sit down and watch a show together. We play board games or go on walks. And it's just something that we want to incorporate in our daily rhythm. And then on the weekends, if just the situation is that we can get out and do something, we'll do that. And if not, we'll be creative at home. And some of that time a lot of that can just be baking even. My kids love to bake. They like to cook. Just what do you have at home and what can you do to spend time with them? And I think if we as parents bring a fun attitude to it, our kids will have fun because they want to spend time with us.
They do. I agree. Stacy, adding fun.
So I'm thinking celebrate anything that goes well. If your student is excited about logging in successfully to all of her classes today, celebrate.
Love it.
If she was able to submit an assignment with nothing going wrong, break out the ice cream. Just everything that seems just like a little thing to us is huge for our students right now because they're so nervous about it. So celebrate with them. If they come in and, jump up and down and say, I actually got into my class and I didn't drop the call. Be excited for them, with them, celebrate it. You might not even know why they're happy. It doesn't matter. Just, make sure that you validate those happy feelings and go with them, celebrate them.
I like that. Any more on having fun, making home education fun? Any more comments on that? How about our practical tips? Do you feel like you all gave your practical tips? If you had, your top 3 Anything to say about that?
I think I kind of already shared like most of the ones that we would do at our house and the ones that I would encourage the parents to do. I just think it's just going to be really, really, really important to start that routine and make it, this is what we do. We get up in the morning. What time would we normally be leaving in the house? We would do whatever. And also bring in time to, because I know in high school level, not everybody has PE, but I know just bring in some physicality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bring some physicality, whether it be walking to the store or something. Bring in something, because when we get sedentary, you know what I mean? It increases our cortisol levels. There's all kind of negative effects of just sitting around. Like I've been starting to develop back problems because I walk 3 miles a day because I'm on my feet and I'm walking around campus and I'm walking back and forth across my whiteboard. And now I walk like a quarter mile a day. You know what I mean? And it affects my mood too. You know what I mean? So I think getting out and getting active and making a time to be active, whether that be as a family or encouraging that, I think is going to be huge for our kids too.
I agree. We also incorporated that with our 2 kids when they came back home, and they're both in high school. And my son wants to be active because he plays baseball, but there was still that part of it that, we said every day you guys have to figure out how you're going to get out, what your routine's going to be. We're not going to dictate what it is because you're 17 and 15 years old, but and they took it and ran with it. Literally, they started running and doing Pilates and working out in the garage, and so incorporating exercise into the day, I think, is really huge. Not letting your kids become sedentary. Perfect. Very nice. Thank you. What about incentivizing learning? How do parents go about getting their kids to do their work? And how do you incentivize that? And how do you get cooperation with schoolwork? And anybody can jump in here. If you have an answer and you're on it,
So that is the age-old question in high school. If I could answer that question, dang, I could take it to the bank. Again, celebrate what goes well. Offer rewards. I remember the first time my first child, I thought, I will never bribe my child. I will never offer my child anything other than you're going to do it because I'm the mom. That didn't work. So, and I'm sure most of you parents can relate to that. So it's okay to offer rewards. You've turned in 5 assignments, let's go someplace for the afternoon. Or you've managed to get these 3 things turned in on time, let's go do something fun. It's okay to offer rewards. That's fine. And I think and celebrate and praise.
Anybody else? Incentivizing learning.
Just in affirming every step of progress that they make. Whether they got it right, whether they, like a big thing in my classroom is mistakes are part of learning. I have a poster, not a poster, but like a quote of Albert Einstein. It says, anybody who never failed at something never tried anything new.
Yes.
And I always encourage that, especially I'm a math teacher. So especially in math, it's like that's part of the learning process is you're going to do it wrong a few times. And you just got to get over that. I always use the example of walking. How many times did you fall down and get back up until you learn how to walk? 1 million. And I always say to my kids, I'm like, I don't see any of you slithering around. So you all learned how to do something hard. You all learned how to do something difficult. This is just another thing that you have to do that's going to take practice.
Yes.
And just encouraging that, grit is a new thing right now. And I wrote my master's on grit.
Nice.
You know what I mean? About just persevering through the struggles that we're going to have and celebrate those little victories. Like you said, celebrating the little victories, because a yard is hard. I think a yard is hard, but an inch is easy. You know what I mean? And I can get to a yard if I just keep taking inches.
Inch by inch.
Yes. And to add to that, don't expect your student to be happy with spending 5 hours on a computer during the day. So having those breaks built in, that's huge. That is just huge. Even when my students are in a 55-minute class, they're asking me, are we going to be together the whole 55 minutes or will we have time to work on our own too? they know that much screen time is not making them happy.
I know
they need
at
that.
my school, for even our synchronous learning, we're only doing, we have 90-minute periods, and we're only doing 30 minutes synchronous. Synchronous is like when we're all together on Zoom. We're only doing 30 minutes. So I'm like dividing my class into like 20 and 10. So I'm going to do like direct instruction, and then I'm going to let them loose for about a half hour and then come back and check on them.
Oh,
and
nice.
then you just finish the assignment before the next time we meet. So understand that they don't have to be on that computer screen all day long, because then they're going to turn into zombies.
Nice. Jennifer, do you have anything to say about incentivizing learning?
I was just going to agree with rewards and to really consider how your kids are wired. What motivates them? What do they really, really love? What my husband and I talk a lot about is what is their currency? What is their big thing? What makes them happy? And that's what you offer. Like, hey, you can get an extra hour of game time if we get this done, or we can.
Absolutely.
And in my house, it's all about video games.
Yeah.
So, and even though they've been on a computer for school, hey, they're still ready to hop back on for video games. So I think that is a great incentive.
My son just got an Oculus Rift, which is the VR headset, and we literally just set it up tonight. So like I got a huge carrot in my house.
Oh, you do. You do. Work's going to be getting done over there. But that's exactly work first, play later. But you have to do some play while you're working. Yes. But that's like you get through a task, you get a reward, and it does help the day to pass and something to look forward to, right? Especially with elementary age kids. So with that said, looking at the clock here, we'll keep moving on. Any advice on how to communicate with teachers? And so we, and this includes us, when we first started going to virtual learning in March, and Stacy, you started to address this, but as teachers and as a parent, how when there's frustration at home, or there's confusion about assignments, or a student is hesitant to communicate with a teacher, and then a parent steps in, what do teachers respond to? How to best communicate with your student's teacher? You both look like you were like the two teachers. Okay, we'll go Stacy and then Charles.
So I love that I can email my parents. I typically will email them rather than call them. It's just easier for me. I feel like I communicate better that way. When a parent emails me, I'm like on it. Okay, I will answer this. Please, let's keep this dialogue open. But one example is this morning, this is before school started, I had a student who was unable to find my class virtually. And so I got on my computer and I had gotten 2 emails, one from his mom and one from him. So I read both of them, but I responded to the student because I truly want my students to self-advocate. Now, mom saw, I'm sure, that I did respond to the student. And if there'd been a problem, I would have absolutely contacted mom too. But I really want the students to build that skill of communicating, of advocating for themselves, that it's just an important skill. But that said, I will answer any emails from any parents. I love it. It's just a way of us staying connected. I do know that some parents will email late at night and want that response within an hour or two, or, early the next morning. And that typically does not happen. We will typically answer an email within 24 hours, which I think is perfectly acceptable.
Yes.
So parents, be patient with your teachers when they don't answer right away.
Yes. I love that self-advocating and learning to communicate with adults, because that's coming. You're preparing students for college and to interface with adults. So helping them, parents can help them come along with that, with encouraging them. Look, your teacher expects you to email. They're not upset that you email or ask questions. They're happy. That's what I tell my kids. They're ecstatic that you're communicating with them. that's their job. They want you to. They don't want you to sit and not know. So thank you. That's excellent. Charles, what are your perspectives on that?
The avocation piece is going to be really big for our kids because especially as they get older and older, I teach from 6th grade to 8th grade. So the self-advocacy piece is going to be really, really huge for them because especially with kids on IEPs, because a lot of them their parents are like on it and their parents have done everything. I'm like, hey, bud, you gotta learn how to ask your own question.
Wow.
You gotta be able to fight for yourself. And especially like in a class like mine where it's like questions are expected and I expect you to not get it right, but you need to at least have enough fortitude to say, hey, I don't understand how to do this. Because like going through the process, it's going to be, as long as you think you know what you don't know, you're never going to learn it. Because a lot of kids get stuck in that place or they're never going to do it. So when you're communicating, I think one of the biggest things when you're communicating with a teacher, and if you want to stifle communication is when parents come at teachers very aggressively. So always assume goodwill. I did not get into teaching to hurt your child. I did not get into teaching. She didn't get into teaching to hurt your child. No one I worked with got into teaching to hurt kids. Okay? We're going to make mistakes. I have a motto like that. My principal always jokes with me about it. I said, I always extend grace because I know I'm going to need it. So I always extend. So like when I have a parent that's late for an IEP, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. Things happen. And they're like, I'm sorry. I was like, I always extend grace because I just know I'm going to have to, at some point I'm cashing this in.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna mess up too.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of the big things is just assuming goodwill when you're communicating and then also encouraging your kid to advocate. I was in a weird position with my kids because my kids went to my school. So they're like, Dad, Mr. So-and-so did this. I'm like, well, go talk to them about it. Go talk to them about it. And if it's an issue after that, then maybe I'll get involved. But your first step is you need to go talk to the teacher.
That's wonderful. That's a great lesson. Helping your kids to advocate for themselves and interface and interact with adults. I love that. And I love that the teachers come at your teacher with goodwill. And because the teachers did not go into teaching to hurt your kids. So great perspective. Love that. So we're going to start to wrap it up with this last question of how can families, now that these home educator parents, employees, how can we include God in our home education, Jennifer? How do you do that practically?
Well, this is my favorite topic. So I love talking about this.
Pastor Jennifer.
I love talking about this. And I would say there's really 3 really easy ways to do it. 1, take advantage of the materials that the church has.
Amen.
So with your elementary age kids, watch the Heights Kids Show together. With your junior high and high schoolers, sit down and watch the messages that Pastor Tim and Pastor Bronson do. They are phenomenal. They're really, really good. And those are great ways to start. So that's just prioritizing church together, right? And then the next step is encouraging a family devotional time. That you eventually want them to have on their own. So as a family, you can do this at bedtime when they're little. When they get older, you might want to start doing it at dinner time. And then or even now, as you're home educating with them, you could do it at breakfast time. So pick a devotional, do some type of family devotion together, and then do that step of encouraging them to have their own devotional time. Those are really 3 easy ways. And I think if you're excited about it and you have a positive attitude, then your kids will be interested. Yes. And I would just say this too. If you find that they're kind of having an attitude or they don't want to participate, just ignore that. Just ignore it. Just keep doing it. Yes. Keep enjoying it. And eventually you will see them grow. So.
Amen. Nice. Any other comments on that? Including God?
So this is our time to shine as Christians. People are so stressed right now. We can just be sucked into the stress, or we can be that example. We can be the positive people. I was thinking of that song from Sunday school, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm going to let it shine. Hide it under a bushel, no." Well, I keep thinking this is our chance to shine for our students, to shine for our friends who are probably freaking out over this, to shine for our family members, for other parents, teachers, they're going to know that we have a different perspective on this. They're going to see that our attitude is one of grace. And that's going to be a huge difference. And I really believe that's how we are bringing God into this. It's by who we are in all of this.
Good word, Stacy. So that interfacing with the teacher and not coming on strong to the teacher, we're representing Christ,
right?
As Christians and parents and letting our light shine. And that is how you bring God into it. And we invite God into our day through prayer, humbly asking God to join us as parents and educators. But then we reflect that love and respect back to the teachers, back to our own children, back to other people's children.
Right.
And then, like you said, with other parents that are doing this and are really feeling the weight of it and maybe feel overwhelmed. And that's part of our mission too, is to love and support people and encourage people. So we're down to 30 seconds. And Charles, would you close us out with prayer, pray for our families here at church and in our community?
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for Stacy, Jennifer, and Becky, and this time for us to share for our church families, Lord. I just pray for a covering of peace in our minds and in our hearts as we go through this new experience together. I pray for healing in the bodies that need healing, Lord. I pray for wisdom in how we go through this time, Lord. And more than anything, Lord, I pray for peace. I pray for peace during this time. Like when Jesus rebuked the waves, I feel like there's so much turmoil going on in people's minds and people's households, Lord. Just peace in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. We love you, church. See you soon.